Welcome to this explainer. We usually think of global power in terms of politicians, treaties, and recognized borders. But today, we're pulling back the curtain on the actual architects of the global economy. We're talking about incredibly secretive, private entities that move literally trillions of dollars in goods every single year. Their market share is so massive, they essentially dictate the pace of modern human existence. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The ships you always see. Think about it. If you live near a harbor, drive over a coastal bridge, or honestly just catch the evening news, you're constantly seeing these absolute behemoths, these colossal cargo ships moving in and out of our ports. But to really grasp the scale here, let's look at the hard numbers. Roughly 90% of all global trade is carried by sea. 90%. We're talking about over 800 million of those colorful 20-foot shipping containers processed every single year. They are the literal, mechanical backdrop of our modern lives, hauling absolutely everything from the raw lithium sitting inside your smartphone right now to the grain sitting in your pantry. So this massive infrastructure brings us our clothes, our tech, and our food. But witnessing this endless procession of steel raises a pretty glaring mystery. Who is actually signing the checks? We see the ships, but we rarely stop to think about the names painted on the sides of those hulls. I mean, who actually has the sheer, concentrated capital to orchestrate this planetary conveyor belt?
And that brings us to Section 2. Who exactly signs the checks?
Well, here is where it gets really fascinating. These absolute giants of global logistics, companies you might recognize like MSC or Maersk, they're actually family-owned operations. Yeah, family-owned. We naturally tend to imagine that the global supply chain is run by these faceless, publicly traded conglomerates, right? Companies answering to millions of retail shareholders, totally stressed out about quarterly earnings calls. But the reality? It's remarkably concentrated. Take MSC, for example. It is quietly steered by the Aponte family. Or look at the deep historical control of the Maersk-McKinney-Muller family. These are incredibly private, tight-knit families with staggering net worths. They sit right at the helm of the very networks that keep our planet stocked, completely free from the typical public scrutiny you'd expect for companies of this immense size.
And these families aren't just moving boxes from point A to point B. As our sources highlight, they literally own what are referred to as the veins of the world. Think about your own body for a second. Without veins, you can't circulate life-giving blood, right? Well, in the exact same way, without these maritime networks, our global economy would just flatline. And honestly, that's not even a poetic exaggeration. These logistical networks pump roughly 70% of the entire global food supply across oceans. 70%! They distribute the essential semiconductors that power our digital age, and they deliver the critical fuels that literally keep the lights on in our major cities. They are the circulatory system of modern civilization.
Which leads us to Section 3. The invisible infrastructure.
So how exactly does a single private entity wield this much control? The key here is their absolute mastery over this invisible infrastructure. You see, it's not just about owning boats. It's about total vertical integration, the whole shebang. These logistics titans own the digital tracking software that routes the cargo globally. They own the massive automated port cranes that lift it. They control the physical terminal land where the cargo sits. And they even operate the massive trucking fleets that do the final mile delivery right to the warehouse. We don't see all this, right? We just click a button online and expect our packages to arrive by Tuesday. But behind the scenes, they dictate every single link in that hidden, highly optimized chain.
And this perfectly illustrates the terrifying weight of their reach. They hold so much leverage that literally one strategic decision from their boardrooms, like a single phone call, can effectively halt or throttle global trade. And we've actually seen this happen in real time. Remember when major logistics titans decided to reroute their fleets away from the Red Sea due to regional conflicts? Bam! Instant supply chain gridlock worldwide. Transit times double, container costs spike by hundreds of %, and inflation ripples through your local economy within weeks. The power to drastically impact the entire global economy rests on a handful of decisions made by private entities, totally bypassing public policy.
Moving on to Section 4. Power over sovereign nations.
We all kind of live with this comfortable illusion that government leaders, presidents, prime ministers, are the ultimate Goliaths of the world. But when you put the traditional map of geographic borders side by side with the raw footprint of a logistics titan, the script completely flips. I mean, the traditional map shows us capitals and territories, sure, but the real map? That's drawn in active shipping routes and critical supply chains. When a single privately held shipping conglomerate generates annual revenues that completely eclipse the entire gross domestic product of mid-sized sovereign nations, the traditional hierarchy of global power is fundamentally challenged.
Because they control the very lifeblood of nations, these secretive private entities actually exert more direct geopolitical influence than most recognized countries. Just think back to recent global crises. When supply chains buckle, sovereign governments don't just, pass a law to magically fix it. State leaders literally have to sit down at the negotiating table with these private CEOs just to ensure their countries get priority shipments of personal protective equipment, medical supplies, or critical energy reserves. The flow of a nation's basic survival goods entirely depends on access to this invisible infrastructure. It's an unprecedented concentration of leverage, where a private titan can just sit there and dictate logistical terms to a sovereign state.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought. One that I hope completely changes how you view the world the next time you see one of those massive cargo ships lingering on the horizon. Do traditional borders even matter anymore, when a handful of families control the invisible infrastructure that connects them all? If the true veins of the world belong to a logistics titan, we really have to ask ourselves, who is actually charting the course of the planet? Think about that for a bit. Thanks for exploring this reality with me.